Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear students, dear wider AUC community. Welcome to one of our campus conversation that is virtual, online. Today's topic is managing sustainability. My name is Atallah. I'm the Associate Dean for Graduate Studies and Research in the School of Business. Today's topic is a very timely topic. We're going to be discussing the managing the sustainability of our institution. Joining us today is President Frank Ricciardoni, Provost Ehab Abdel-Rahman, Senior Associate Vice President for Human Resources, Sarah Refaat, Associate Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Amir Habib. Welcome. I'll start the conversation today with President Ricciardoni. I'm going to ask him about the latest meeting of the Board of Trustees. For the first time in the 100 years of AUC, the Board of Trustees met virtually last week. If you can give us the broad, important highlights from this meeting and the key messages that you would like to share with the AUC community.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. And as you mentioned, it really was a historic meeting, just as this has been a historic spring term for us. We did it all online. One of the results, in fact, was very high participation because, as you know, our board comes from all around the world, the United States, Egypt, London, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf, and no one had to fly anywhere. So we were all able to participate, and that was one reason for the high participation. The other is, of course, the emergency historic circumstances under which we're working. There was intense focus on the emergency. I'll get to that second. And then also the regular business, which is always important in the spring term. First item of regular business, always in the spring meeting, which is the last of our fiscal year, is approving the provost and president's recommendation for tenure. And they did that with due deliberation, and congratulations to those 8 faculty members who are newly tenured and now have a long-term commitment from the university, and we have their commitment, and it's a wonderful thing every year when that happens. Second item of business normally is approval of the budget for the year ahead, and we postponed that because of the uncertainties to another meeting that we will be doing as a Board of Trustees later in June. A third item of regular business is the trustees' fiduciary responsibility for strategic, long-term planning, guidance, and decisions. And in that context, they continued the highly consultative process being operated from campus, now remotely. And we started in February with the physical presence of a major architectural firm, Buyer Blinder Bell, BBB. And BBB gave its presentation, the results of its conversations with students, faculty, and staff on a long-term outlook for possibilities for future building on campus over the long run. You see I'm wearing this 100-year pin intentionally. We're not only 100 years old, we intend to be around a long time. We will be. This emergency, we've faced emergencies like this, wars, plural, revolutions, plural, economic downturns, plural, and AUC has withstood a very turbulent 20th century and first fifth of the 21st century. And I'm very, very confident we're going to go forward. That's why the trustees didn't say in some kind of a panic mode, oh, let's put all long-term planning aside. We're continuing long-term planning, whether it's in the resources area or the outlooks on our programming and so forth. Indeed, when we meet again in June, we will be very keen to see the provost report, our report of all the committees, and foreshadow the decision we think will be taken regarding the fall term. We did also, the big item they did after a lot of deliberation about what we had done this spring to get through the emergency successfully. At that point, as we met, we got the first word that we had our first case of an employee who had COVID-19. That was, though, rather a success that until May 7th, we had got through spring term without any students, faculty, or staff having been diagnosed as having COVID-19. So we regarded that as a success, also because when we got that report, we were able, the employee immediately got the medical attention needed, self-quarantined, and we were able to trace and make sure that of who he had been in contact with and make sure those people were informed and isolated. So the review resulted in looking at our goals. Number one, protect the health of our people. Number two, continue with our mission online. And in that, they got a full report of the success of the online education and online conduct of business through teleworking at the same time. And then the third point that we had set out, the third goal, was also of great interest to them, that we set a goal to come through this even stronger, not simply hunkering down, getting into a defensive crouch, cutting here, cutting there, but focusing on resilience, strength going into the future. Those discussions resulted in that very strong statement of commendation that I hope everybody has seen. We put it out through email and news at AUC a few days ago, earlier in this past week. I'll stop there. That's just the wave tops of what we did last weekend's board meeting.
Thank you, President Richard Bowie. I'll now move to Amir, the CFO, and I think everybody is now curious to know what is the mandate of the Financial Governance Committee, its composition, what do you think it will do to address important challenges related to our budget? Amir?
Thank you, Dr. Samer. Actually, it's a good opportunity to share with AUC community the mandate that was received by the President for the Fiscal Governance Committee. First mandate is to lead the development and implementation of the strategy and its action plan for optimize our major costs and revenue for both academic and non-academic. The second mandate we have is to review and assess and optimize current financial control within our financial division. And we believe there is an opportunity to eliminate redundancy, to be more efficient in applying our controls. Third mandate is to identify and revamp non-essential expenditure, especially with the current circumstances and the AUC future outlook beyond COVID-19. Last mandate is to identify and review and assess and perhaps re-engineering all our manual processes. It's a good time to start looking at automation, especially with the current situation we have. This is the mandate we have for the Fiscal Governance Committee. The way it's a structure, we have core members from the finance area, and we have different task forces, and we have 4 faculty who was nominated by the provost to serve on the Fiscal Governance Committee. The purpose of the committee is to have an action plan with clear deliverables on timelines. So we have phase 1, which basically will start, actually started yesterday. We had our first meeting for the core committee, and this phase will focusing on scenario modeling for budget and forecast during and post COVID-19. We're looking at optimization and a couple of recommendations for increased revenue and optimize our expenses. This phase will end by July 15. The second phase will be looking on updating our policies and procedures. This will end on August 15. Phase 3, which will be more, is looking to more of integration with our IT team, is to update all our manual processes to be automated, and looking forward to have a cashless campus. This is one of direction we're looking for, especially with COVID-19 and tuition. And it has been a couple of pressure on the student and parents. We're looking forward to make it everything online for efficient utilization of our resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. It seems like this is a very big task, huge task to undergo such a big digital transformation that everybody in the world is talking about now. I move to Associate Vice President, Senior Associate Vice President Sarah Refaat, and you are also heading a similar committee that tackles HR, the HR committee. So can you please also clarify and tell the community what is the mandate of this committee, what is its main objective, what its deliverables and its time plan accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samir. But I would like first to start with expressing my thanks and appreciation to all staff members while we are concluding the spring term and getting ready for the summer term. During this change, we experienced a lot of different ways of working, either working remotely or physically present on campus on shift basis. This is a considerable change to our employees, and actually all of us are really proud of every single employee in the campus and staff member in the campus supporting the academic mission in concluding the spring semester. We are still going through major changes due to this crisis and economic crisis in the world around us. And AUC is not alone in this dilemma and not alone in this challenge. And what we are working on and focusing on is really maintaining the well-being personally and professionally for our staff. Thus, we have a HR committee focusing on how we address these challenges related to our staff and how we work on optimizing and full utilization of the employees during the coming period in terms of a short term, while we are continuing working remotely or maintaining minimum physical presence on campus, because naturally there are many positions and jobs that interact directly with students, interact directly with campus activities and facilities, and we need to look into how we will support these employees, as well as a long-term plan in terms of full utilization and optimization of our headcount. The groundwork of this committee already started, because this committee is not an isolated committee. This committee is a work operational committee with every single area head leader in the organization. So we started the groundwork of meetings of HR reviews, looking into our overall HR and headcount, how we work on different ways on utilization and optimization with every single area head and every single dean. We concluded 2 weeks of these meetings, and next week we will conclude the rest of the meetings. All of this input and groundwork will be pre-reading and pre-material for the committee, the HR committee, to start studying these requirements. I would like to thank the Provost for nominating 4 faculty members to join me in this committee and support us to take this further, in addition to the HR representation and area head representation in the committee. So in June, we will start having the meetings with the committee members, presenting to them all the challenges, requirements, output we had from the HR reviews, start putting an action plan and priority on how to address the short-term output and the long-term output. And I will be expecting that we will have a clearer vision about next steps during the summer.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for clarifying this. Lastly but not least, I move to Provost Abdel-Rahman. We have been doing a lot of work on moving our campus to online. Can you just give us a brief on how is this quality of education guaranteed in this online?
Thank you, Samer, and it's really good to have you as a moderator of this session. I hope that you're not considering shifting career. For that, I echo also my colleague Sarah on thanking everyone on campus, faculty, students, and staff for really working really hard to make sure that everyone on campus is safe. Everyone, the health of our people is also protected, and also for working hard to save the spring semester for our students. It goes without saying that the faculty have been actually working and putting lots of hours to save the spring semester for our students. And in continuation to that, the faculty also have been working hard to prepare for the summer semester. So we started actually by announcing that the summer semester is going to be online. And since that moment, our Center of Learning and Teaching started to work on preparing for online courses. What we have witnessed in the spring semester, we cannot really call it online, but we call it remote teaching to cope with the COVID-19 situation. While actually the online teaching is going to happen mainly in the summer. So the Center of Learning and Teaching have prepared a capacity building program for our faculty to make sure that the courses that will be offered in the summer are online courses. The assessment issue is well taken care of. The syllabus is clear for our students from day one. So the students will know from day one what to expect when it comes to assessment, when it comes to assignments, when it comes to meetings itself. If those meetings will be face-to-face through digital media, or actually is it going to be asynchronous classes? So that's going to be clear for our students. In continuation to that also, there is a committee currently working to put different scenarios for the fall 2020. The committee is considering different scenarios, including face-to-face or online. And those are the two extreme, face-to-face or online. But there is so many choices between them. One of the choices that the committee is working at now is the block system. So instead of having 15 weeks of classes, we may actually divide that into a couple of blocks. Each one of them is going to be 6 weeks. And during those blocks, the students will take a course or two, while the faculty will also teach a course or two online. And in that case, that will give us a little bit of flexibility to move from one modality to another. Another scenario that the committee is working on, they call it target curriculum scenario, where some courses will be offered online, depends on the needs of the course, and some other courses will be offered face-to-face, also depends on the needs of the course. And there are other scenarios that the committee are also considering. And while they are looking at those scenarios, they are scanning the external market, which is mainly universities outside Egypt, mainly in the United States. And also they are also scanning the environment in Egypt. So they are looking at what would be the decision of the government, for example, when it comes to the fall. Are they going to allow us to come back for face-to-face or not? And if not, what will be the trigger to, what will be the action then? The committee is also looking at the triggers to opt from one scenario to another, because also with the uncertainties that we live in, we're also preparing for those different scenarios in a specific way. Mainly is we're looking at what will be the triggers to make us opt to go to online courses, online teaching, or face-to-face teaching, or the block system, as I described a minute ago. That committee is chaired by Dr. Ahmed Tolba. It has many faculty actually contributing to the work of the committee. We are expecting a decision, actually a recommendation, I would say, from the committee not later than mid-June. And we are expecting a decision not later than mid-July.
Thank you, Professor Abdel-Rahman. So that's very reassuring that we have multiple scenarios and multiple triggers that we are ready to move from one scenario to the other. I'm glad that we have a certain time frame whereby our faculty, our staff, and our dear students will be able to know what's going to happen in the fall. I just want to build on one issue that is very important because one member of the community is as important as everybody else in the community. Our colleague that was found positive of COVID-19. I want to ask the president, do you have any updates on his or her health status? And is he or she in a stable condition? Is he or she getting better? And do we have, you alluded to this in the case that was detected, do we expect that we follow the same protocol if, and God forbid, there is another case of a positive detection of COVID-19?
I don't have a very recent report on the individual's situation, but I was very reassured from the report I had. This happened on the 7th that it happened then. That's when we heard about it. And the initial reports within a day or so of that was that he was in stable condition in a quarantine hospital, not on the ICU or anything like that, but in stable condition and with a good prognosis. So we're very happy to hear that. And I sent my wishes. I don't know the name of the individual. We work really hard to protect the confidentiality. As I mentioned earlier, we did the appropriate follow-up to make sure that, as sure as we could, through tracing, that anybody who might have been in close contact would be informed and could also self-quarantine and pay special attention. I guess I could add one other thing. I didn't coordinate on this with the provost, but I understand that a student did report in that he or she had been diagnosed or believed that he or she had the COVID-19, but had not been on campus, of course, all these weeks. So fortunately, the student clearly did not contract the disease through contact with other students or faculty or staff on campus, and also did not pass it on to anyone else who is still needing to come to campus. So that's the whole point of this terribly disruptive evacuation of campus that we did. So that's the second report, but it wasn't a direct. It was a member of our community. We wish that student a speedy recovery. And those are the only two reports we've even had so far. So far, so good, thank God.
There was a couple of words that kept on repeating when Sarah and Amir talked. It's optimization and utilization of resources. As an economist, I obviously have a sweet spot for these words. And I want to first start by asking Amir to quickly delve more on the points that you have started this conversation with, our revenue side, our expenses side. If you can tell us briefly in a terminology that the vast community of AUC can understand, what are the challenges we're facing in the revenue side? What are the challenges we are facing on the expense side?
Thank you, Dr. Samer. Actually, we are, as we were looking at closing the mid-year result, and we're looking forward to have more of positive update projection to year end for a fiscal year FY20, which started last July. It's going to end in 2 months, less than 2 months. Our projection at that time, we were looking forward to have more of balanced budget. And as we had COVID-19 and it has an impact on international student, it has an impact on our endowment. And we had to recalculate our numbers again with respect to revenue and expenses. And it's clearly there is a drop in our revenues as a result of COVID-19, especially in when it comes to education extension program, which is School of Continuing Education, and some of executive education, when we have have an impact perhaps from the current economic situation. AUC Press as well is experiencing some drop in revenues. In addition to our fundraising target, which the year-end estimate, it seems, will not be able to achieve the target. So for this year, we are anticipating to have a shortfall of our revenue, which lead to have a deficit in this year budget. Definitely, we are looking at our expenses and see, as a result of the closure of the campus, how we can save from utilities. And I think the management and operation team is doing a good work in this area. Travel, hospitality, there is area we can definitely have and can witness a clear saving. We are recasting our number as we move forward to see how the year-end result would look like. This is to give you more an update about this fiscal year. Now we have an issue with respect to the next budget, next year budget, FY21, which is supposed to start as of July 1st. Our budget estimate at the time of the board meeting in February, we're looking into small deficit. We're looking to close this deficit. And then again, by COVID-19, we had see a drop of number of international students. So basically, we are looking and working with the provost and a couple of stakeholders to review our enrollment model and see how we can compensate the drop of number of international students by looking at number of Egyptian students and see how can this close the gap we have in our tuition revenue. And as everyone knows, our tuition, gross tuition fees represent almost 60% of our total revenue. In addition to fundraising, again, because fundraising is one of the areas, one of the challenges we have is fundraising, and also this is having an impact on our revenue. So basically, we are now in a discussion with provost for the academic area and the administrative area, each area head, to see how we can close the gap by optimizing again and reviewing our expenses, or if we can, there is an opportunity to increase revenue. So to close the gap and presented our budget for approval by the Board of Trustees in June 18. I hope I cover it in a simple way, Dr. Sam.
Thank you, Amir. Thank you. I know that the issues of budgets and numbers are always challenging for most of us. Thank you for briefly detailing these challenges. Back to Sarah, and utilization, optimization always creates, are translated into words that people are worried about. I have several questions from staff members asking about staff reduction. There's a question that asking, will there be another wave of staff reduction? And another question about annual leaves. There are questions about people who are working remotely and being asked to take their annual leaves. So can you please address these concerns and explain to the community, the staff members particularly, what are, and address their concerns, please.
Thank you, Dr. Samer, and I really agree with you that when we talk about optimization and utilization of staff, a lot of our employees translate this into reducing headcount or reduction in force, and actually this is not the case. We are looking into optimization and utilization in different ways and in different forms. And I can comfort a bit our staff and community about the things that we are looking into in terms of optimization, and provide specific examples to let them feel comfortable on with the way forward. One of the optimization that we are working on is evaluating our vacancies. We already announced a hiring freeze, and the announcement of the hiring freeze is not, does not mean that we are not recruiting or hiring the total number of vacancies we have. No, we will look into the essential positions that we need, and we will work on filling these positions. after a real thorough study about the need of the position. But this will take us to utilizing our internal resources first, rather than going to the market and recruiting from the market. In some positions, we will not find the talent in our internal resources. And we have here two choices. Either we train them to fulfill the position, or maybe if it's very critical position, very narrow niche in the market, we will go to external hire. But this is an opportunity to optimize and utilize our existing headcount, fulfilling the requirements that we need in terms of vacant roles and responsibilities, not necessarily equal to vacant positions. This is one of the issues that we are looking into. Another issue that we are looking into, replacement of the natural number of retirees that we have in FY21. So we have a number of retirees that will be retiring as per the Egyptian labor law, and we will not go into automatic replacement of retirees from the market. No, we also will reevaluate our internal resources first. Another third example is we have service agreement contracts, a big number of service agreement contracts conducting services and work to our organization. And we are also reviewing this and checking how we will utilize the tasks and responsibilities of this contract to be utilized and allocating this to our existing employees. And this is part of the HR reviews we are doing and will be followed by an action plan with the committee. So what I am trying to confirm here, that we will utilize all the channels and resources that we have to save jobs first. This is our top priority. Followed by this and followed by the analysis, we will have a much better view during the summer where we stand in our total headcount and how this will be taken forward.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This is very reassuring that you are confirming that the first priority is to save jobs. I think this, I'm going to repeat this for everybody that is hearing us. The first priority is to utilize fully our resources and to save jobs. This is extremely reassuring to everybody that is hearing us, to the whole community of AUC, to the staff members, and so on and so forth. There was the question of the annual leaves. If you can please address that quickly.
Yes, we actually as HR are the custodian of the balance of annual leave. So we actually have a full visibility about the exact number and annual leave utilization. And we have also the visibility of the working remotely tasks and responsibilities that were submitted into the HR system. And we are actually having in a considerable number of positions the opportunity to consume our annual leave in the coming month. Already in May, we had a lot of requests for annual leave during Ramadan. And in June, there will be an opportunity for our employees to consume their annual leaves as well. Looking into the data, this is feasible and can be done, except for a very minor group of employees that may be very difficult for them to consume their annual leaves in specific functions in the university. And we are addressing this with their line managers and how to compensate them for their annual leaves. But the majority of the population within the umbrella of working remotely are having the opportunity to consume their annual leave.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. I wanna take two lines that Amir mentioned. Since Amir, he's our Minister of Finance, he's the gatekeeper of our finances. He mentioned two areas where there's a drop in the revenue side. One of them is our auxiliary education services, and the other one is fundraising. So I want to start with the Post Abdel-Rahman to tell us what are we doing to leverage on this new opportunity to extend our executive education, auxiliary education to the online world, so that we can reap all the possible benefits to extending our expertise in Egypt, in the region, and in the world.
So, Samir, thank you again for this excellent question, actually. I think one of the benefits of COVID-19 situation is it really accelerated our plan to go digital when it comes to extended education at AUC. So the plan was actually going ahead, but with COVID-19, now the Dean of the School of Continuing Education, the Associate Dean for the Executive Education at the School of Business, and the Director of Executive Education at the School of GAP, they actually accelerated their plans to go online and to offer their services to areas beyond Cairo too. So I know that Dean James Ketterer is looking now into a plan to offer his service, the School of Continuing Education service, beyond Cairo. Usually, most of our students in the School of Continuing Education came from Cairo. I would say more than 95%. Now we're looking at open new markets everywhere in Egypt and to expand the operation of the School of Continuing Education in other governorates in Egypt online. And that was the plan even before COVID-19. Now the plan is being accelerated. So we hope actually that starting this fall, the plan will be clearer to us and we will be able to open new markets actually when it comes to extended education.
Thank you. I mean, the notion that every crisis has an opportunity is indeed not a cliche. There are obviously areas where we can extend our knowledge, our service to the community beyond the walls of our campus. And I really, as a person that appreciates tech so much, I hope these efforts will succeed. The other part of the revenue, obviously, is the fundraising. There have been a lot of discussions about the shortfall in the fundraising this year and next year. Obviously, next year we are facing a very turbulent and uncertain world that everybody's facing. So I want to ask the President to tell us what are the reasons we had such a shortfall this year, and what is his expectations for next year.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Samer, because while Amir just mentioned it, I wanted to flag this as a really important element, actually, of AUC's identity. This makes AUC really unique in Egypt and among a handful of American-style philanthropic, not-for-profit universities in this region. AUB is like us as well. The fact is, over these 100 years, no student who has come to AUC has paid the full cost of his education. Every student, even if you don't get a scholarship or a fellowship, is getting a subsidy thanks to the generosity of others. Now, tuition does cover, in these recent years, about 60% of our operating costs. And that means everyone who is paying tuition is getting what amounts to a 40% subsidy, if you look at it in a capitated way. You can argue about what things go into the educational experience, but really all things focus on our core mission of education of the students, even when it's research. It's research that informs our education, drives it, inspires it, enriches it. So we put them all together. Where does that other 40% come from? Well, it comes from the endowment, which is the accumulation of gifts over the century, actually, more toward the latter part of our 100 years of experience. But that endowment is itself contributions, mostly by corporations, foundations, high net worth individuals. In our case, a very substantial one from the United States government that enabled us to build this campus and come out here. So that constant fundraising, whether it goes into the endowment for longer term feeding into tuition, or gifts for annual operational expenses, particular scholarships, chairs for specific teaching positions. Those are critically important to who we are and how we operate. It's hard to overemphasize that. Therefore, typically, presidents of not-for-profit universities like us and non-public universities, we don't get taxpayer funding, except we don't get any Egyptian government support, and American government support is only in the form of these grants for which we must compete. and then the past support that they gave on a one-time basis to the endowment. So every year, we must raise funds. I, as president, do that, and we have a small staff, which we reduced in the United States following 2011 and 13. By the way, not only for fundraising, but for recruiting of foreign students who also help subsidize the Egyptian students here, because they have historically paid quite a high premium over what we charge Egyptian students. Both of those things have gone down in recent years. We can analyze why even this past year, before COVID, we were falling short. We set a high target and we were not reaching that target, although it was a centennial year and we had hoped to reach more. You asked me earlier about the board meeting. It is a topic for every board meeting, Board of Trustees meeting, and it was an area of emphasis this past weekend too. What can the board administration do? How can we work to celebrate? One of the strategies, one of the fundraising tools is celebrate the things we do really well. And the things we really do well is put out terrific students, and we do that through terrific faculty. Faculty who are passionate about what they do, who have reputations that go way beyond our walls, not only as great teachers, but for doing terrific research and engaging with the world of scholarship beyond our walls. We need to do a better job in celebrating the great things that our faculty and that our students do. And that means more engagement, I think, between our fundraising team and the deans. The deans, and the way it works in other American universities that are philanthropic, the deans are not only there because of their great scholarship, they're there because they're also great at fundraising and drawing attention to the things that they do in their individual disciplines. So we want to do more engagement of our faculty. It doesn't mean faculty are going to be fundraisers. It means that we, the fundraisers, I, the president, our fundraising team, have to come in behind the faculty, get their tips for people they've heard about who care about what they do in their discipline, no matter what it is, whether it's science or engineering or the arts or the humanities or social problems, social studies, political science. So that's one thing we've got to do better, I think. Going forward, the reason we have very sober expectations for the year ahead is most of our donors, whether corporations or high net worth individuals, have lost a lot of their wealth just over this, since the pandemic has afflicted world markets. All you have to do is look at the effect on oil prices of COVID, slowing down the transportation industry, which consumes hydrocarbons, multiplied by the oil price wars that have been going on. We saw oil actually go below zero in the United States in these past weeks. That means people who had oil in tankers were paying people to take that oil and store it. The price of oil went below zero and still hasn't recovered to $30 a barrel. In past years, when oil was at $100 a barrel, that fueled the real estate sector, manufacturing, transportation, and many of our donors were doing well. When it went down over past years, and now even before COVID was under 60, then under $40 a barrel at different times, that impacts the fundraising. The outlook for the world economy going ahead is negative, probably for the coming years. People debate certain sectors will do really well. People in artificial intelligence, people in telecommunications. I wish I owned shares in Zoom. I don't. I wish the universities did. We don't. Certain sectors will do well. But in the main, we're facing a very challenging year for fundraising. What does that mean? We're going to redouble our efforts. It doesn't mean we reduce our fundraising staff. That's a mistake we made following 2011 and 13. We're also going to redouble our efforts to recruit foreign students to come to AUC, mainly because it's just such a terrific place to come. If you're a foreign student, there's no better place to learn about the Arab and Muslim world. And Egypt is the welcoming heart of it. It's safe, it's secure, it is stimulating, it's just a fantastic place to study. That hasn't changed. COVID makes it hard to get on an airplane and to get health insurance to come outside of your home country. So fundraising is really important. it's going to be a tough part of the ledger as it was this fiscal year. It's going to be tough going forward. But we're not giving up. We're redoubling. We're leaning into it.
Thank you, President Ricciardoni. I have one last question for the Provost. I have lots of questions from parents, from students about the fall. One parent is asking, are we going to wear masks for students? Are they supposed to wear masks? I know you probably will not be in a position to answer this, but one important question is, should students expect in the fall 20 the same policies and procedures regarding course registration, drop and add, and so on and so forth in the fall, regardless of whatever scenario we'll be adopting in the fall?
What I can assure AUC community is we were gonna deliver our courses in the fall. This, I want everyone to be assured that the AUC is committed to deliver the fall semester as well. However, all measures that we will follow during the fall semester are not in place yet. It depends on which scenario we will adapt. And I would just tell the community, stay tuned. We will keep you updated about those scenarios and the measures to be taken during the fall.
Thank you. I'm glad we have two very strong confirmations today. First one is that we will be teaching courses in the fall 2020. I think this is very reassuring for the current students, the prospective students, the parents of prospective students, and most importantly, my colleagues, the faculty members of this institution. We also have a very strong confirmation from Senior Vice President, Associate Vice President Sarah, about keeping the jobs is our first priority. We're running out of time, but I want to give a few minutes for the President to give concluding remarks before we wrap up this community conversation. President Ricciardoni.
So this is something I say at every one of these meetings, and I think it just bears repeating of how proud I am to serve with this university, with this amazing faculty that has just pivoted so quickly to a whole new way of conducting our core mission, and has done so successfully, I think, in an exemplary fashion. To staff that has also dealt with the stresses and strains. Some have to be present on campus and worry about what that means for their health. Others have learned to work remotely, and all that means. And then the students who also are here for a very special AUC experience and have been deprived of a part of it. And it's the part that we all care about. We love being with our students. We especially love celebrating their graduations and their accomplishments and seeing their end of term projects and the amazing things they do. We've all had to face big frustrations and disappointments and stresses, and we've come through it, I think, very strong and resilient. I'm more confident than ever about the future of this place, even though I'm sober about the challenges we're going to continue to face until someone discovers a vaccine that is safe and effective and widely available. I'm afraid it's going to be a raging debate around the world among governments and universities, not whether we will live with this thing, but how we will live with this horrible contagion. How can we mitigate? Only when we get a vaccine, it's going to be how can we really defeat it and hopefully make it either go away entirely or be no worse than measles, something we know how to deal with and not face so many fatalities and dreadful outcomes. The big question we're going to be wrestling with, all these committees that are coming through, and where we really are going to need the community to be involved, is how much risk of contagion, of sickness, and even fatalities are we willing to face in order to get back to some level of normalcy, what we thought of as normalcy before. That's going to be the really hard moral and ethical thing that we're all wrestling with. Everything we do and all these committees is going to be subordinate to taking care of the health of our students, faculty, and staff who are on these campuses. So that's the sobering question. It's a big one. We're going to be working on it all together, and we'll come up with answers. And we will go on, and we will be strong, and we're going to continue to be great. We're going to be the best in Egypt, in the region, and competitive with all the other universities in the world that are facing the same challenges along with their host governments and countries. So strong, confident, keep safe, keep isolated, keep washing our hands. This isn't over. Even if we relax a little bit, we need to stay vigilant to take care of each of us individually and take care of all of those we're in contact with. Thanks very much.
Thank you, President Richardoni. Thank you, Associate Vice President Amir. Thank you, Senior Associate Vice President Sarah and President Abdel-Rahman, for taking the time to talk to our community. Thank you, President Richardoni, again. To the rest of the AUC community, I have only one message. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll go through this, inshallah. Thank you. Bye.